pandemic. So na-implement to siya noong 2022 lang. Ang tawag nito ay adaptation and mitigation for sa climate measures. So ibig sabihin, meron na tayong ahensya regarding sa climate change kasi nga para doon sa bukod sa kalaman baka hindi niyo alam research nga natin yan yung AMEA. Pag i-research yung AMEA, makikita mo yung mandato nila kung anong gagawin sa mga magsasaka regarding nito sa climate change na papaparating. Yun lang inaayan ako answer ko dun sa kasi sinasabi sa climate change na walang ina-address. Meron na po. 2020 nagsimula. Yun lang. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sir Bo. Yeah. Baka si Holden wanted to answer. Ako? Pwede naman tayo.
Since wala pa naman nagtatas ng kamay.
Yes. I think number one na super kailangan nating problem ng Pilipinas is education. Of course, because I'm me, it's always healthcare. And number three, transportation. Kasi sobrang daming kadugtong kapag hindi ka makakapasok ng trabaho, hindi ka makapasok ng school. And mass transportation, sobrang equalizer siya talaga. So, yeah. Ikaw, gamer, top 3 before we move on to our first topic.
Yeah, so probably I'm gonna mention yung top 3 ko, and the least one would be you've mentioned transportation. Problem talaga siya kahit saan we have implemented a lot of things, a lot of public public transportation hindi naman talaga dapat, and then that contributed to what we have right now, the Carmageddon. So yeah, we need to fix that para hindi tayo laging babad sa traffic, and that is costing us a lot of money and time and effort talaga. And that also contributed in the problem in our economy by the long run. The second one is food, which is talagang sobrang mahal ng food natin dito sa Philippines. Kung low income family ka, hindi ka talaga mahirapan ka talagang masuportahan yung sarili mo. Kasi that kahit itaas mo pa siguro ng doble yung sweldo mo, mataas talaga yung food that was compared before sa Malaysia and then Indonesia, which I understand because they're producing their own food. Medyo sustainable sa kanila Sa atin kasi we're importing a lot of our food products. And for me, yung pinaka biggest problem natin is energy. Fuel and energy. Kasi if we can if we can provide cheaper energy for everyone, I guess we can number one resolve a lot of problem number one, less cost for us for expenses, less cost to manufacture or produce food, less cost for ano pa ba, for operations. I mean,
sumagot. Yeah, sorry gamer. Kasi sinasagot mo na yung next natin
topic.
topic.
Sorry. Yeah. But
it's okay.
Yun lang. Sorry.
So ikaw, transportation, tapos food security, and
energy.
Ano nga hila?
Energy.
Yes. Speaking of energy, yeah. We know na marami talagang problema ang Pilipinas, pero we identified the top from a certain report. So pero later on, kung wala dun yung top 3 ninyo, we will ask. So you can actually see the questions above, nakapin na siya doon. So para you already know kung ano yung paparating. Tatlo lang yung question natin tonight in every problem. The first question is, what do you think is the cause of the problem? Pangalawa, do you think the government is doing enough to address the problem? And number 3, what do you think is the best solution? So, magsisimula muna tayo sa what do you think is the cause of the problem? And our first problem na pag-uusapan natin tonight is education crisis. So, again, ang sagutin lang po muna na question is, what do you think is the cause of the problem? The World Bank estimates 90.9 learning poverty rate in the Philippines for 2019. And right now, I think we have EDCOM 2, and some other legislations and programs addressing this. Paano ba siya in a context? The context is, ang explanation, sa kada 10 children, 9 of them cannot read or write. This is ito nasa context siya ng mga 10 years old. So our first question for this is, what do you think is the cause of the problem? Go ahead, Sir Bong. Sir Bong, go ahead.
Sir Bong, go ahead po. Sir Bong?
Yeah, parang na-stuck siya. Anyone else who wants to to answer, what do you think is the cause of the education
Educational
crisis here in the
crisis.
Philippines? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yan,
anyone?
very good question. Ay, go ahead, Sir Marcos. Gamer, so si Sir Marcos and then si Sir
Ayun,
Bong.
sige,
Go
Sir
ahead,
sige,
Sir
Bong,
Bong.
sige,
yes,
sige.
yes.
Okay, yung ano, yung tungkol sa masyadong ah, yung mga estudyante na yung mga hindi nakakabasa, let's say, hindi marunong magbasa despite nasa 9-year-old na gano'n, ano. I think unang-una dahil sa archipelagic kasi yung Pilipinas, ano. So, may mga eskwelahan talaga na malalayo. And then the government, we just put schools there because the next available school is probably 10 to 20 kilometers away. No? So we just put the school there sa isang napaka-remote na lugar. Pero kulang naman yung facilities, yung kumbaga yung bubong nila ganun ay napaka-pawid pa yata yung ibang school. Hopefully wala nang ganun. Walang mga computers sa ngayon. Ano pa ba? Yung mga teachers ay probably, let's admit it na when I was in high school, lahat kami uh, may gustong maging doktor, may gustong maging engineer, may gustong maging CPA, blah blah. Siguro yung mga top 30% ng mga estudyante sa batch namin ay walang gustong mag-teacher. Yung mga nasa bottom na 20%, sila yung kumuha ng kurso na para magturo. In other words, yung talagang mga educators natin ay especially yung mga medyo may edad na sa ngayon, ano? Hindi talaga sila masyadong magaling na magturo. So, yung mga ganitong problema nagkasapin-sapin at for example, if you go to a remote province sa Antique, if you go to another remote area sa Mindanao, even sa Luzon, marami niyan. Because this is all over the place, dahil nga archipelago yung bansa natin, ang dami mga estudyante.
30 seconds po.
Ang dami mga estudyante na naapektuhan talaga yung kanilang advancement. Kulang yung naging suporta. Unang-una sa mga bahay nila, yung initial learning supposedly ay sa bahay, kulang. Dahil obviously, yung mga magulang nila ay can I have another 30? Yung kanilang mga magulang ay hindi naman nakapagtapos ng pag-aaral, gano'n, ano? So, naging sapin-sapin ito mga problema to na supposedly, over the years, ay ma-fill up natin yung mga gaps, ano? Dito nagkulang ang gobyerno. Kumbaga yung delay na nangyayari sa isang lugar, yung the whole world has moved 10 notches above, pero yung
Wrap up po.
yung education sector natin is delay. Kawawa naman din mga estudyante natin. Thank you.
Thank you very much po.
Gamer si Sir Bong.
Yes po. Sir Bong, ikaw na
Kasi
po.
Yung sinabi niya, yung tanong na anong cause ng problema natin sa bansa? Infrastructure. Kasi
In education, sir. In
Hindi,
education.
hindi education. Isahin ko lang ha. Kasi anin mo yung edukasyon kung kulang tayo sa infrastruktura. Paano yung daan papunta sa kalye, sa liblib na lugar kung wala tayong infrastruktura? Paano natin mabigyan ng magandang edukasyon ang nasa liblib na lugar kung wala tayong infrastruktura? Lahat yan nagsisimula sa infrastruktura. Hindi mo mabubuo ang magandang edukasyon kung ang edukasyon mo lang, ang matututukan mo lang sa cities, paano yung nasa Samar, paano yung sa Leyte, paano yung sa Masbate, paano yung sa mga Mindoro, sa liblib na lugar na yan kung wala tayong infrastruktura. Tandaan natin, tulay, kuryente, tubig, telecommunication, lahat yan. Kasi anin mo yung magandang classroom, wala kang kuryente. Ang mga mag-aaral natin naglalakad. Ako naranasan ko maglakad ng 3 kilometro nung araw. Kung napapunta lang sa eskwelahan, ang init-init. Ngayon, kung napaganda yon kasi ngayon pwede nang i-ano mo ng jeep papunta sa eskwelahan. So, yung burden ng isang estudyante na hindi naman dapat nila anuhin yan. Kung walang infrastruktura, ang infrastruktura natin, tandaan natin, natulog to ng 3 dekada. Kaya naging poor ang education natin eh. Naging bagsak ang agrikultura natin. At naging bagsak din yung lahat ng mga ahensya natin kasi walang hospital na makakarating doon sa bawat liblib na lugar dahil walang infrastruktura. Bakit lumala ang insurensiya? Dahil walang infrastruktura. Walang trabaho dahil walang infrastruktura. Lahat yan pinagugutan. Puro infrastruktura. Yun ang kulang sa atin. Napakaswerte natin na may Duterte at merong Marcos at tinuloy-tuloy yung infrastruktura. Yun lang. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Kuya Bong. Yeah. Sir Kaki.
Okay. Ako kasi I have a totally different take from Bong. Kasi syempre, when we do that, when we gather that information, that already factored in na meron tayong mga estudyante who are already within the city, who can actually just walk to the school which is nearby their barangay and whatever else, right? Ako kasi my take on why we have gotten to where we are with regards to education is that it has not become a priority for the past several administrations. Feeling ko kasi that there's been less motivation to prioritize education. Why do I say this? Okay, just to give you a brief background on who I am. February 2003 until September 2016, I was living in Jakarta. And prior to that, I spent half of my life in and out of the Philippines and Singapore. Doon na lumaki yung sister ko. My mom was a director of a Geneva-based educational institution. Siya yung head of Asia. Here's my take on this. Bakit tayo? Why are we suddenly lagging behind? Because there's less push. When we think of education kasi we always think it's just the physical structure, but it's everything. It's everything. Kami kasi kami in the field of education, we factor in everything, including the parents, including the community, di ba? It takes a village to raise a child. So everything plays a role in the education of our citizens, of our young citizens. Yes, infrastructure is very important. Yes, materials are very important. Yes, methodology is very important. All of these are all very important and they're crucial. Kaya hindi tayo nagkakaroon ng sufficient materials or at least para maitawid yung natin, yung education natin where we were. Kasi syempre, we have been a third world country for as long as I've been alive. And I'm old. I'm old. I'm guessing I'm older than a lot of you here. Na even when we were when we had the highest fluency in English in the command of the English language in Asia, we were still lagging behind economically. Pero there was a push for education. There was a push for culture, di ba? I'm speaking of the time of the late
30 seconds po.
Ferdinand Edrelin Marcos. What I'm saying here is that there is less political will to put education at the forefront of our priorities, and that is what is keeping us from reaching our fullest potential or becoming again what we were during the time of the late
Wrap up po.
Ferdinand Marcos. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Sir
Sir
Rocky.
Rocky.
Si Sir Ryan. Si Sir Ryan. Tapos si Holt. Tandaan mo, gamer. Si Sir Ryan, Sir Holt. Ano to? Si Holding. Si Anthony. Tapos si Sir Mark, si Biang, si Chris Baby. Thank
Alright.
you.
So, thank you. Sir Ryan, ikaw na po. 3 minutes. Sir Ryan?
All
Sir
right.
Ryan.
Hello?
So, yes, go ahead, Sir Ryan.
Sir
Okay,
Ryan, go po.
kasi minute ako eh. Ayun. Um, Yun nga, kaki idea is okay. Yun din yung kay Bong. Okay. Ang problema kasi sa education, ano eh, sabihin na natin na tama yung sinabi ni Kaki na hindi naging prioridad ng Pilipinas at mga nakaraang mga administrasyon ng edukasyon. Pero ngayon, lumilinya na tayo sa ano eh, lumilinya na tayo sa mga kapitbahay natin when it comes into education. Ang punot dulo pa na sa mga problema ng ating mga kababayan is aside from the infrastructure, yung affordability ng education sa Pilipinas. It's so expensive, you know. Sa sobrang mahal, kahit nagsiksikan sila sa mga public school kasi mahal lang edukasyon sa Pilipinas. Ginawa nilang negosyo at hindi nila ginawa isa na parang ano ba, anong tawag? Nakalimutan ko. Gagawin mo kasi kailangan. Gets mo? Ginagawa mo kasi gusto mo na negosyo. Yun ang nangyayari sa Pilipinas. At yung ano naman, yung mga bata na nagkakaroon ng gap ba when it comes into like reading comprehension, when it comes into mathematics or science, di ba? Kasi nga hindi mo na sila mahirapan kang i-motivate sila dahil una mahal yung mga parents nila, they can afford. So even though the child want to go to science high, for example, or yan, di ba? O yung mga science school sa mga bayan natin. May mga science school ba sa inyo? Meron naman siguro, no? Ayun, kasi hindi nila afford nga. Yun lang ang ano ko diyan, take ko diyan sa education. Masyadong mahal and even though katulad ng mga anak ko ano eh, isang grade 5 at saka isang grade 1. Almost more than 100,000 each ang tuition fee nila. Grade 1 and grade 5. Di ba? Imagine that. Yeah. Yun lang. Thank you.
Alright, thank you po. Sir Mark.
Okay, ako na. Thank you, education. Alright. Ang problema sa education, una-una, yung methodology, yung grading. Ang ginagawa sa mga estudyante is tinuturuan sila to compete with each other because they have separate grades. Hindi ganon sa totoong buhay. Pag nagtrabaho ka, hindi yan patayan kayo dahil iba-iba kayo ng objective, iba kayo ng grade. Unless sales. Actually, kahit nga sales eh. Ang sa totoong buhay, once you go to work, you have to help each other. Ngayon, pansinin mo, pagdating sa organization, kadalasan, ano ang problema ng mga organization? Yung mga empleyado nila nagpapatayan, di nagtutulungan. Bakit? Sa natutunan? Sa school. Natutunan sa school, dahil sa school, doon sila natuto magpatayan sa grade. Yun yung una. Pangalawang problema sa education, sa grading system, tinuturuan yung tao na matakot magkamali dahil mamainosan. Dahil takot sila magkamali, hindi na baling hindi sila matuto, basta walang minus. Ganon. So, ang dapat na ginigradean, hindi yung right answer minus wrong answer, hindi. Ang dapat i-gradean mo, kung magkamali yan ng 100 sa day 1 ng school, at pagkatapos na itama niyang lahat yon, wala na siyang mali pagdating ng dulo, dapat 100 ang grade niya. Kaya ako pag nagtuturo ako, laging 100 ang starting. Tapos sabi ko, pagka nag-present kayo sa una, nakuha niyo yung minimum guidelines, nagkamali ka, hindi kita maminusan. Pero i-correct mo sa next presentation. Yun yung ideal. So hanggat hindi ganon ang sistema, ibig sabihin, ang mga estudyante natin, mga taong takot magkamali, hindi na baling hindi matuto, basta wag lang masabi nung kaklase na nagkamali siya. Ganon. So pagdating yan sa organization, hindi yan aamin na nagkakamali dahil yun ang natutunan sa eskwelahan. Na wag kang aamin na magkamali ka kasi maminusan ka. Dapat 100 ka sana, cum laude ka na sana. Hindi ka pa naging cum laude dahil umamin ka na nagkamali ka. Dahil pinaparusahan ng system yung mga taong nagkakamali. Which is not really the case. Diba? So yan ang primary problem ng educational system. Kahit na naka-aircon ka pa, maganda pa yung infrastructure mo, meron ka pang highway, lumilipad ka papunta ng school, kung gegradean ka nang dahil takot kang magkamali, naglolokohan lang tayong pare-parehas. Yun lang. Salamat.
Alright, thank you very much, Sir Mark. Holden.
Hello. Siguro I'll talk more on the context of higher education because excuse me. For example, there is an equality between public and private schools. Like for example, public schools are not subjected to accreditations that incurs a lot of investment compared to the private schools in which they spend so much on accreditations, no? Okay, and the salary as well for the teachers in public are higher, of course, compared to those on private schools, no? Okay, so aside from the fact, of course, that teachers in the private school are deprived for quality training, no? Okay, so and the price of education, as mentioned earlier, but I'm not sure who, is actually high here. For example, if you talk about the online rate for education or online education or certificate or diploma at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, the rate in Ateneo and in AIM is even higher than in London. So doon na lang ako sa London na online mag-aaral, no? Or sa Harvard, no? And then, well, Catholic schools in the Philippines are actually uh, charging very high, and that is so un-Catholic of them, no? Okay, so sila yung napakataas tapos wala naman silang tax, no? And then if you take a look at historically, sa Pilipinas po nag-aaral yung mga Thai, yung mga Vietnam, but as of now tayo na yung nag-aaral sa Thailand, no? And then aside from Thailand ang nag-aaral sa Thailand, naabutan na tayo ng Vietnam. So I guess it's really sad, no? Siguro, what I would like to emphasize is more of equality siguro, no? Siguro spread natin doon sa ibang public schools like DepEd yung resources kasi yung SUCs ang resources kasi sometimes nagpapalaki tayo ng mga taga-UP tapos wala namang silang. Actually, they are just nagkukontra lang sila sa government natin. So maybe our resources should be focused on those that can help people instead of downgrading our country. Thank you.
Alright, thank you very much po. Biang, ikaw na po. 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Ganda gabi sa lahat. Ipiyak ko lang. Para sa akin na kaya meron tayong education crisis is because yung sinabi ni Sir Dong sa infra. Please note yung education
Biyang
system.
may ground yung...
Hello. Okay.
Yes.
Ayan. Okay na.
Meron pa din.
Meron pa rin. Ayan. Okay na.
Yes, okay na. Thank you,
Okay.
Biyang.
Let us all note na yung education system, pati yung mga sa infra, sa healthcare, part yan ng infra. So, according dito sa report ni Sarah, we have almost 300,000 classrooms, pero 100,000 lang na gumagana. So, syempre, kung hindi motivated ng estudyanteng pumasok, kasama na yung mga problema niya sa bahay because of sa poverty line sila, nagkakaroon ng ano ng yung actions nila towards the school yung nagiging negative na. So kumbaga imbis na maging part of ng journey ng buhay ng isang bata na matuto, nagiging ano na lang siya, yung pabigat sa buhay niya. Kasi nga hindi na maganda yung pinapasukan niya, yung sa bahay pa. And also yung curriculum natin, sabi nga ni Sir Mark kanina, ano meron sa curriculum din natin, 'di ba? Kailangan yung um, ano siya, yung relevant sa society natin ngayon. Tapos yung matututunan nila is talagang magagamit nila. And yung mga teachers din, kailangan talaga ng training hand in hand with their students. Kasi 'di ba kaya ako gusto ko dun kay BBM kasi part talaga ng uh, program si BBM kahit yung senador pa siya is yung i-educate not only the teachers pati yung mga empleyado ng local government para makasabay sa mga ano natin sa mga changes natin sa buong mundo. And also, ang last ko dito sa education, bakit tayo nagkakaproblema is the conflict. 'Di ba sa mga lalo na sa probinsya natin, may mga conflict sa government dun sa mga rebels or kaya yung meron din tayong mga typhoon na nasisira yung mga daan, nahihirapan ng mga estudyante. So yung mga yun ang pinagdadaanan ng estudyante. At saka yung dati kasi ewan ko kasi matanda na ako eh. Pag kami noon nag-aral, parang automatic ang isip namin kailangan maka-college kami. Ngayon, I don't know kung ganun pa rin yung mga estudyante. Kasi parang mas madali na sa kanilang kumita ng pera, doon na lang sila instead na magugol sila ng oras sa pag-aaral. Lalo na ngayon, may mga SOCMED tayo, may TikTok. Kahit hindi na sila pumasok sa school, basta kikita na lang sila sa SOCMED, okay na. Ayun lang, thank you.
Thank you, Biang. Before Sean, si Sean na next, the gamer. Before
Go.
Sean, tama ba? Si Sean ba next? Yeah.
Siya.
I just wanted, yeah, just to recap. Our first question pa lang is what do you think is the cause of education crisis? Ang next natin na question is do you think the government is doing enough? Tapos what do you think is the best solution? So nandun pa lang po tayo sa cause of the education crisis. Go ahead, Sean. Sean?
Yep. I want to engage the point that the previous speaker made about the methodology of teaching and the philosophy of or the educational philosophy that we have in the country. Um, I don't. I did read about that also before, but I think the data is not yet well established to say that competition in schools is detrimental to the learning of the student or detrimental to the level of success a student can get after school. Let's not forget that other educational systems from other countries also do the same thing. Um, it, even the battle for being your top 10, the battle for being your valedictorian, these are all merit based. So a merit based and competition based educational system is not inherently flawed. I think there is still some value in there. And then second, the point was made that when you go into work, hindi naman kayo naglalaban-laban, it's more about teamwork. That's partly true. There is a lot of collaboration needed in the workspace, but when it gets down to performance evaluations, kapag nag-aagawan na kayo sa bonus pool, there has to be some level of relative contribution. Like how much did somebody do compared to everybody else? How much did somebody contribute compared to everybody else? Some companies have an unlimited bonus pool. Many companies don't have an unlimited bonus pool. So there is still a need to compete. And let's not forget also that it's not, even if you are employing a competition-based method of learning, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're learning in school. Schools also give you the opportunity to join team sports. Schools give you the opportunity to participate in uh, in group activities, group studies, group research. Usually yung mga thesis, it's done, well, I guess it depends sa course, no? But usually yung mga thesis, ginagawa yan as a group. So that's also being taught in school. Uh, but to say that the method of learning is our primary issue for the educational system in the country, I think that for me is wrong. There are a lot of fundamental issues plaguing our educational system that have been mentioned in the previous speakers. Everything from the infrastructure to the number of teachers, the number of classrooms, the difficulty in provinces for students to get to those classrooms, so on and so forth. So I think yun muna yung aayusin natin dapat. And then maybe later on, we can take a look at the methodology for teaching or the philosophy of education in the country. Pero primary muna yung mga fundamentals like classrooms, teachers, infrastructure.
May I address that as just gamer?
Yeah, go ahead. 1 minute,
Go
Mark,
po.
before Chris PP and Rock.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry thank you, Crispy and who was that pala?
It was Sean.
Oh, Sean, ito ha. All right. When
Sean.
you talk about merit-based system, hindi ko naman sinabi na you abandon the merit-based system. Ang sinabi ko, you give merits to those who corrects their mistake. You do not give the merits to those who did not commit a mistake. Na hindi mo naman alam if they're like hiding their mistakes or hindi umaamin that they make mistakes, then you give them 100%. Yun ang sinasabi ko. Kanino mo ibibigay yung merit? Kanino mo ibibigay yung grade? Ibibigay mo yung grade doon sa nagko-correct ng mistakes and so that aamin sila na nagkakamali sila and not they will learn. Again, kung hindi aamin yung estudyante na nagkakamali siya, kahit maganda yung infrastructure niyan, no person, regardless of the environment, who does not admit they commit mistakes will ever learn. No educational system will get learners to learn if they don't teach them to learn, if they don't teach them to admit that they commit mistakes. Yon ang primary point ng aking argument. Number 2, sabi mo, merong limited pool of resources, meron pa ding competition. Again, who do you reward, 'di ba? Hindi naman ang ibig sabihin nun is that when you're like giving out bonuses and you have to go ahead and say ibe-bell curve mo yung mga performers. Ang ibig sabihin nun, they are in competition. Hindi. Pwede mo ngayon bigyan ng pinakamalaking reward sino yung particular employee who gets to say mentor, coach, help a weaker employee to be better than they are. Then you give those bonuses. Ngayon, merong competition, yes. Pero hindi mo in-eliminate yung main fabric of my argument that in an organization, mas lalaking organization where there is teamwork, hindi yung debatable. Diba? There is no universe that you will grow into 54 countries dahil nagpapatayan yung mga tao mo. Walang ganon. You will grow into 54 countries if your people help each other. Because there is no one person who can manage 54 countries worldwide. Kasi mamamatay ka, 24 hours ka lang gising. Mamamatay ka lang. So yun, di ba? So, ano yun? So, wrap up na. Yun lang. Tapos na.
Alright, thank you, Mark. Yes, last 1 minute to Sean, tapos si Crispy.
Okay.
Si Sir Rocky, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't entirely disagree with the tenets that you were presenting. I mean, there's definitely value in a values-based reward system, working hand in hand with a merit-based reward system, or like putting people on a bell curve and ranking them accordingly based on their contributions. But again, I don't think that method of learning is inherently wrong, or that if we implement that method of learning or keep that method of learning, that nobody else is going to learn. The question that's being raised in this space today is, what are the main problems, or what is the primary problem of the educational system? And I'll bring up the point that others have made. If you can't get to the school, then you can't get to the school. There's zero, or it's there's zero value in having a competition based learning or values based learning if you don't have teachers to educate people about chemistry, and physics, so on and so forth. Then again, there is no value in debating whether or not competition or values based learning is more effective. The primary issue here really is the infrastructure. Let's get the infrastructure out of the way. Let's put resources into building more classrooms and hiring more teachers. And then maybe after that, we debate on whether or not we should implement one school of thought over the other.
Alright, thank you, Sean. Yeah. Si Crispy.
Crispy.
Thank you. Patawa. Thank you, Crispy.
Okay lang. Nasanay na ako. Going back sa statement, the World Bank estimates 99.9% learning poverty rate in the Philippines for 2019. They explained it as 9 to 10 children? 9 to 10 children? Or 9 out of 10?
9 out of 10. 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10
Yes.
cannot read or write?
Yes.
9 out of 10?
Yes. As
Yes.
of World Bank.
Alarming.
9 out
90
of
point
10
90 point something
ng mga
poverty.
kabataan.
Yeah, learning poverty. Yes, 10 years old.
Grabe ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ibig sabihin, kahit tumungtong sila ng graduate sila or tumungtong sila ng grade 4, hindi pa rin sila marunong
Yeah.
magbasa.
Yep.
Totoo ba to?
Yeah, World Bank at World Bank data.
2019.
Yeah. Mas ano siya ngayon eh, mas andun pa rin tayo sa that number. Na-shock ka ba? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think yun nga siguro primarily lack of access sa education. Like yung mga nasa liblib at malalayong lugar. Wala talagang dun school, walang paaralan eh. I think yan yung primary reason. Ang root cause niyan, mismanagement ng ating leaders kasi imagine mo, kaya nilang magpatayo ng new Senate building, mga convention centers, that is how much billions of pesos plus pa the operational cost to run the new infrastructure. So kung i-convert mo yan into classrooms, items for teachers, kung ang priority mo na sa education, instead of building new Senate building, convention centers, convert mo yan to schools, finance mo yung mga teachers. Yeah, that should be able to help. Pero alarming 9 out of 10. Yun lang masasabi ko.
Thank you.
Mismanagement ng leaders natin.
Yes. Go ahead, Sir Rocky. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if I have to still say it, but I think Sean P has made it plain and obvious that I didn't think I was gonna talk again, but I have to say we have to go back to what the question here is. Yun binalik tayo ni Creepy Spin that what we are talking about is global. What we're talking about is why are we 9 out of 10 hindi makabasa and all of those things, diba? Why are we at that position? And I have to really say that Shanti has made the most compelling argument regarding this, that we have to go back to the fundamentals because all of these other things that Mark has been saying with regards to methodology, reward system, and such will only come into play once we are already in the classroom. If our children are not in the classroom, then all of these things that are supposed to happen in the classroom become nil. It becomes a moot point, diba? Until we are there in the classroom, until they are there in the classroom, all of these other things, methodology, value system, all of these things are moot points. We have to go back to the fundamentals. Why are our children not in school? Why are they not getting quality education or access to a classroom, access to teachers? Ako, short anecdote lang, very quick anecdote. When I was still in school, I have a very good friend. I was younger batch from me, Ateneo rin, Ateneo High School din, started in engineering. Very quickly lang. Flunked out of engineering in his first semester. UP Diliman kami lahat. Went to economics. Math kasi talaga ang line niya. Went to economics. Flunked out of economics by the end of the first year. Moved to mathematics. Flunked out of mathematics. Where did he end up? Educ mathematics. So even with yung college system, may hierarchical standing. And education is the lowest priority and the lowest in the hierarchy. Kumbaga sa pinakamababa siya sa food chain. Even with regards to arts or liberal arts or languages, pag bumagsak ka na sa lahat, you get your skill set in education because that is the easiest. Easy in yun. If you fail out of biology or physics or chemistry, ang lowest point in your academic life is to end up being in eduk biology or eduk physics or eduk chemistry. Ganun din kami. Like ako, I come from what do you call this, a double degree course. And kaka-party. Ang ending ko is I did do eduk until I became floating until I eventually moved to LaSalle. Diba? So, we have the lowest regard for education as a country, which is why we end up with this value
Wrap
na
up,
hindi
sir.
na hindi natin with regards to infrastructure, with regards to development, with regards to budget, hindi siya priority. Get them into the classrooms first. Have the roads, have the room, have the teachers there first. And then we can debate on what curriculum we follow, on what values or what content we have or methodology in that classroom we apply. But get them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Rafi. Sean and then Mark. And then cut off na po tayo dito sa question after ni Sir Mark para we can go to our next question. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. Guys, I'm
Okay.
giving you a minute.
Okay, I was actually going to ask if we can pose a different question related to education. So I think by and large, we all agree that infrastructure, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of teachers, and the poor quality of our current infrastructure are all fundamental issues of our system. But given a very limited budget, ano yung uunahin natin? Should we hire more teachers first? Should we build more schools first? Or should we fix the existing infrastructure first? Yeah, but if we're going to move on to a different topic altogether, then that's a moot point already. Yun lang.
Yes. Last na po I think you, Sean. Last na si Sir Mark and then we go to the next question. Go ahead, Sir Mark. Sir Mark.
Sir Mark?
Okay. One.
Just
Going once, going twice, going thrice. Okay.
Just
Yeah.
can
So,
I yeah, just quick lang.
okay.
Yeah, so I have this friend regarding sa education. Since we're talking about kids cannot read 9 out of 10. I have this friend that who actually hires teachers for primary education going to Singapore, and then they're hiring good teachers. And what we're left off, sino yung ba yung mga left natin? Tulad na nabanggit ni Sir Mark kanina, napakababa ng hierarchy ng education when it comes to, ano mo yun, kung mag-enter ka ng school, ng college. And then, ini-export pa natin yung mga galing. So, na yung natitira sa atin. And then, we're gonna look at that data na hindi sila mga peg-read and write. And probably we're gonna have that answered na rin yung question na yun. So, yun lang.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Gamer. So I'm gonna, pagsasamahin ko the two questions in one go. But this is still our problem with education or the education crisis. Our two questions are number one, do you think that the government right now, at least the Marcos administration or Secretary Sara Duterte, is doing enough to address the problem? And then second is, what do you think is the best solution for the education crisis? Go ahead, Sir Rocky.
Hi, just to correct Gamer, it was me who raised that point regarding hierarchy
Sorry.
within the education system. Okay. Can you go back to the first question? Dapat ba dalawang question sagutin in the 3 minutes?
Yes, sir. Please.
Yes,
The first question is, do you think the government right now, the Marcos administration or Secretary Duterte is doing enough to address the education crisis? And second, what do you think is the best solution to this crisis?
Okay. To answer question number 2, I don't think there'll be enough to answer both. I'll probably have to raise my hand again later. To answer your question number 2, is the government currently doing enough? I want to go back to sa points na ni-raise again ni Shanti, I think I align so much with what he has been saying so far this evening. Yung tanong niya, di ba, na parang if it is a question na pwede daw niya i-raise, what should come first? Infrastructure, teacher, blah, 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 all of those things, right? Okay, being an educator myself, I have to say, the most important is the teacher. Teacher factor comes in first. If you have competent teachers, kahit nandun tayo sa gitna ng bukid, a kid will learn. If you have a competent teacher, kahit nasa simbahan tayo, a kid will learn. Kahit nasaan tayo, kahit we are at times of war, a kid will learn. If you have a competent teacher, yun ang primary. That is the most important. We invest in our teachers first. Is the current Marcos government doing enough? I don't think so. I don't think that Sara Duterte is doing anything at all to improve our teachers' welfare. Why? The teacher factor, when we global standard to should be 1/3 factor lang sa development ng student within the classroom. That should be it. At the most, 1/3. Pero where we're at, I don't think there is enough support that we are giving our teachers. You know, I heard Singapore mentioned a few times during this evening. Maaga pa naman to pero I've heard Singapore mentioned several times. My sister grew up in Singapore. She went through the Singapore educational system in her elementary school and eventually went on international school in high school. Summers niya were spent in Brent, Manila. Alam nyo, the Singapore system is very tough. It is very, very tough. And we're very far from that. Kasi mechanical We are far from that. And we do not invest enough in our teachers to even compare to that. What do we need to invest in our teacher? What investment do we need to do with our teachers so that we are competitive in a global market? Is to make periodic professional development accessible to them. Naglagay si Trillanes ng this law where
30 seconds.
where our professionals are required to do mandatory learning and parang I think retesting or whatever else. I think the spirit of that was sound, but the execution and the practicality of that is not. We need to make that practical. We need to invest in our teachers. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Rocky. Anyone else who wants to to answer the question? Again, the question is, do you think the government or the current Marcos administration under the leadership of Secretary Duterte is doing enough to address the education crisis? And number two, what do you think is the best solution? If you cannot, you can always request for a mic, but if you want to answer via if you want to type in your answer, that is pretty much okay. Go ahead, Sir Bong.
Sa akin, simple lang. Tama naman si Salaki, teacher. Pero sa panahon ko kasi, from elementary ako, public school ako at saka high school 15 lang kami nung elementary kami. Tapos nung high school kami, 15 hanggang 20 lang kami. Napaka-limited na nun. Pag 21, lilipat na yan sa Pero tandaan natin, ang pinakamalaking populasyon ngayon sa buong Pilipinas ay nasa public school, nasa elementary, nasa preparatory lahat. Kung hindi natin matugunan yung infrastruktura niya ng tawag ganito ng mga classroom na para yung 70, 80 students ay mahati man lang sana yan, maging 40 man lang sana yan, 30, siguro matuturuan na maayos yan at saka dagdagan talaga natin ng teacher. Mag-invest tayo doon. Kasi aanin natin lahat yan. Kung magdagdag tayo ng teacher, magdagdag tayo saan ilalagay? Sa ilalim ng puno? Tama naman sinabi kanina, 100,000 na ang meron tayong classroom. Ilan ang nagsisiksikan? Ngayon, isa pang problema natin, ang mga binabagyo na lugar, laging natatanggalan ng bubong. At pag nabasa ang libro, anong pag-aaralan ng mga bata? Wala tayong telecom na kagaya ng mga private school ngayon na meron na silang iPad, naka-high-tech na sila, wala na silang librong ginagamit. Nagdedepende na sila sa infrastructure ng mga private school na talagang telecom ang inunan nila. Ang mga bata ngayon nag-aaral through iPad na. Wala. E-book na. Nandun na lahat ng mga subjects. Nandun na lahat. Pag nag-quiz, ilalagay na lang ng teacher doon. Naka-laptop na lang. Meron ba tayo nun? Wala. So anong mangyayari sa kung ano natin yung elementary at high school sa private at saka ng itong ano? Hindi tayo magiging competitive talaga itong education natin. Nabibihain talaga tayo. Kaya ang nakapag-aaral lang diyan ay mga mayayaman. Tandaan natin 60% to 70% ang nag-aaral sa public school. Kung hindi maganda, kung di mapaghandaan yan ng infrastruktura, yan sinasabi nila teacher lahat, walang mangyayari sa kabataan natin. Ang tanong kanina kung ito ba'y sapat ngayon o magagaw ngayon, I don't think so. Siguro aabot pa yan ng 10 to 15 years. Pag nabuo na yung classroom diyan, yung mga lugar na binabagyo, tayuan ng mga tatlong palapag kasi naikot ko ng Pilipinas halos dahil sa trabaho ko eh. Nakita ko yung mga
30
classroom,
seconds po.
isang bubong pa rin, isang floor lang. Kung gagawin niyan 3-4 na palapag at sementado yan, pag bumagyo, sinong lilipad na bubong? Wala. Walang mababasang libro. Walang magdi-delete na estudyante na mag-aantay ng 3 buwan, 5 buwan, 1 taon bago i-construct yung Doon pa lang delayed ng bata. Kahit marami kang teacher diyan, anong pag-aaralan ng mga bata sa ilalim ng puno, tirik ng araw? Yun lang talaga ang unahin. Tama si Sarah, unahin talaga niya ang infrastruktura, yung mga binabagyo at saka yung mga binaha, dapat yan maging resilient yung building diyan. Para lahat ng mga bata, bumagyo at bumaha, at least hindi masisira
Wrap up po.
Thank you. Yun lang. Infrastructure para talaga sa akin, para maayos
Thank you
ang
po.
edukasyon. 10 to 15 years.
Yes, sir, Rocky. Rocky pala.
I support yung sinasabi ni sino ba yung kanina, si Bong. I support na parang there is a need for all of those things. There is. Pero kasi, the reality is, kumpleto ang classroom, kumpleto ang kuryente, kumpleto ang kubeta, kumpleto ang laptop. Walang teacher, walang mangyayari. Ako kasi, I'm a teacher. So I know. Or, I have a particular propaganda. O yun na lang. I have a particular propaganda and I have a particular, I'm lobbying a particular cause when it comes to education. Okay? I am pushing for a particular agenda. Yun, agenda in education. Teacher first. Kukontrahin ko yung sinabi niya na, sa ilalim ng punong mangga? Yes. May classroom ka, walang teacher, walang matututo ang bata. Sa ilalim ng puno ng mangga, may teacher ka, matututo ang bata. Kahit sa loob ng anthill, ano yung tawag doon? Nuno sa punso. Ilagay mo doon ang bata, may teacher, matututo siya. Ilagay mo sa pinaka-high-tech na classroom, ilagay mo sa may access sa Google, sa YouTube, sa TikTok, sa Facebook, sa Instagram. Maraming matututunang fake news ang bata dyan, but they will really never learn. Diba? Sa akin, that's my stand on that. Why is this such a big deal for me? Why do I think that Sarah is not doing enough with regards to this? Is because you need to focus on your teachers. All of our best teachers are leaving the country to become maids, to become katulong. Sige, bigyan ko kayo ng insight. Sorry if this comes off as snooty or whatever, but it's not the point. That's not my point. That's not the point I'm trying to make here. Ako, batch 94 ako, Ateneo High School. I am in advanced English. When I entered, I have the highest regard for our science systems, high school sciences. I tried, I did not pass. Na waiting list ako. Waiting list ako sa Philippine Science, pero honors class ako sa Ateneo. Okay? Pagpasok ko sa Ateneo, by the time I reached my senior year at Ateneo, I was already in advanced English. You know what we do in advanced
30 seconds po.
You know what we do in advanced English? No more technology, no more videos, no more books even. It's just one-on-one mentorship with a competent teacher and with different keynote speakers. Yung mga beginners English, yung mga nasa base, mga nasa remedial English, sila ang may magandang classroom, sila ang merong mga technology, all of those things. Kami, wala na. It's just one-on-one with your mentor. So, sa akin, coming that experience.
Wrap up po.
Talaga, it's teacher factor. That's it. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes. I think it's Rocky. Who's next? Gamer.
Si Ethan.
Ethan and then si
Creepy speed.
and then si si Sai. Go ahead, Ethan.
Ang ganda po ng usapan kanina ni Sir Rocky at ni Sir Bong. If titignan talaga po natin na both of those are problems on the education. Una, kulang po tayo sa teachers. Totoo po yun, kulang tayo sa teachers. Let's say may mga subjects. Hindi naman pwedeng iisang teacher lang ang humahawak ng mga subjects. At let's say sa elementary, syempre mabibigatan na rin ng workload yung teacher na yun kasi nga iisa lang siya. Okay. Next, yun po tayo sa infrastructure. Sabi ni Vice President Duterte during her basic education report, yun nga po yung meron tayong 327,851 school buildings. Ang tanong, ilan doon ang maayos? 104,536 are in good condition po. Now, kung na-address na ang problema ng teachers, we should address the infrastructure din. Here in Manila, Mayor Isko, yung 4 na schools, if I'm not mistaken, that's Manila Science, Rosauro Almario, Dr. Albert, and Ramon Magsaysay are now in renovation. I think yung 4 na yun po yung madaming students na pinapasukan na public dito sa Manila. Now, kung 104,536 lang ang schools o buildings na nasa in good condition, anong nangyari dun sa natitira? So I think after the addressing I think we should Vice President Duterte should address both problems. Hindi lang sa infrastructure but also dun sa kakulangan ng teachers. Now, enough na ba ginagawa ng pamahalaan ngayon? I don't want to judge Vice President Duterte on her first year, but I don't think hindi pa enough ang ginagawa ng education sector ngayon. Pero I think and I hope and I do think na ginagawa naman yun na paraan. Sana mapabuti ang education system ng bansa after the term of Vice President Duterte and President Marcos. Thank you.
Gamer.
Alright, thank you po. Si Sir Rocky.
Hindi ba si Crispy Spy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lagot ka, hindi kayo mabanggit
Lagot
pangalan
ako,
mo.
sorry.
Comment lang ako sa sinabi ni Sir Rocky. Kasi literal na naranasan namin under the mango tree. Totoo naman sinabi niya na pag magaling yung teacher, may matutunan yung mga estudyante. Pero kung gagawin mo siya sa first day, okay lang. Second day, okay lang. Third day. Pero kung gagawin mo siya for the isang school year, walang learning na mangyayari. Kasi during time ko nung nag-public school ako, mayroon talagang classroom shortage. So one time, doon kami sa ilalim ng puno ng mangga. Hindi mo maririnig yung boses ng teacher eh. Kahit gaano pa siya kagaling ma-explain, gaano pa siya ka-enthusiastic, hindi rin ma-absorb ng estudyante. Tapos one time, lumipat kami sa ang tawag doon, parang malaking hall, pero 6 sections nung nandun, tapos divided lang ng mga blackboards. So magkakarinigan yung mga teachers, yung mga estudyante. So wala ring learnings na nangyayari. So para sa akin, equally important yung teachers plus the infrastructure eh. You can't go with one tapos wala yung isa. Hindi rin ideal yung education system pag ganun. So para sa akin, equal lang. Dapat mayroong magagaling na teachers. At the same time, meron tayong conducive learning na classroom para sa mga estudyante. So yun lang yung masasabi ko. Parehas sila. Parehas lang.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, maraming salamat. Sobrang insightful nun kasi it's a personal experience. I just want to, to repeat lang the question before Zoe. Zoe is next. Do you think the government is doing enough to address the education crisis? And what do you think is the best solution? Nandun pa lang po tayo. Yes. Go ahead, Zoe.
Ayun. Hi, Justin. Hello, gamer.
Mahina ka, darling.
Ayan, okay na. Okay na
Hindi
ba?
pa. Hindi pa.
Ayan. Hindi pa rin. Okay na.
Ayan, okay na yan.
Ayun. For me, ngayon wala pa kasi ako nakikitang turnout dun sa kay VP Sara. But hopefully, kasi syempre it's her first year tapos kung infra naman yung pagtutuunan niya kasi yun talaga yung kailangan for the education system. Bukod doon sa teachers, 'di ba? Saan mo naman ilalagay yung mga estudyante kung hindi maayos yung infrastructure, yung mga classroom. But this is not to dismiss everything that has been said earlier. So, para sa akin, ang una, kailangan talaga classroom and teacher to student ratio. Yun yung laging nakakalimutan. Alam mo yung magkaroon ka ng dati 35 lang children to one teacher, madami na yon. Pero ngayon pinipili talaga na 75, 100. Ah, alam ko meron yun 75 pero 100 sobra na rin yun. Para lang maipilit na sa isang section, 'di ba? So, yun yung para sa akin pinakamahalaga. And paano naman yung mga teachers magkakaroon ng mga trainings kung ganun kadaming hinahawakan nilang estudyante. Also, ay napansin ko lang, I'm working overseas. So, ang sa nila dito, sa academy nila dito, they assign assistants and facilitators. So, kailangan din ng mga teachers natin yan. Alam ko sa Pilipinas, meron na yung mga Montessori, meron silang mga teacher assistant, mga ganun. Para naman hindi teacher, yung nag-iisa lang yung teacher na uh, nag-aasikaso sa lahat ng bata. So, yun na yung sana bukod sa simulan yung infrastructure, yung teacher to student ratio, then let's make it convenient also for the teachers kasi sila yung mahalagang tao talaga dito. Sila yung nagtuturo nakasalalay talaga sa kanila yung matututunan ng bata. And if they are not efficient, they should look into what's creating this problem. Baka kasi hindi na rin natin sila natutulungan. So, yun. Yun lang. Thank you, Justin.
All right. Miss Thea, ikaw po.
Hey guys, as somebody who values individuality and believes in the power of personalized education, since I homeschool my son for 7 years now, like I am actually a teacher at home. So we do one on one. I'm actually generally skeptical of the traditional state education system because the problem with state education is it is the state that decides how kids should learn. And I think the best people to decide are the parents kasi sila yung palaging kasama ng mga anak nila. And they know what are the curiosities of the kids, what are their interests. And we follow our curiosity in education. So generally speaking, I am very skeptical of state education. And also, ang problema sa state education is that it follows a standardized curriculum that treats all students the same regarding of their unique strengths, regarding of their giftedness, their interest, their learning styles. Hindi kasi, alam mo yun, there's no one size fits all approach. And then that kind of approach, personally, in my opinion, it really stifles creativity and it limits critical thinking. And we can see that among the students in the Philippines. Like many of the students are incapable to solve problems through critical and analytical thinking. It's all about memorization for them to get higher grades. And then there's after school then support. I used to co-own a para siyang review center / tutorial center after school care. And oh my gosh, I was so stressed out by the moms, by the parents. Kasi bugbog sarado yung mga bata. Memorize dito, memorize doon. And after that, once they take the exams, hindi man lang nila na-apply yung pinag-aralan nila. So kumbaga, pasok sa kokote, labas sa kokote, that's it. Because hindi man lang sila curious and interested sa mga pinag-aaralan nila. So for me, state education really hinders the development of a student's full potential. So I would advocate for liberalizing education. That is, we have to accommodate homeschooling and unschooling. And then there has to be a more flexible and individualized approach in addition to state education. So, ano kasi to we need to allow the parents to
30 seconds
tailor
po.
the curriculum and learning experiences para sa specific needs ng kanilang children. This is already what is happening in the States. And many of the students, like really, really good students, actually, they actually become really good learners, especially in Silicon Valley. They're all homeschooled. So why do we need to pigeonhole kids and stifle their creative genius through state education? So yun lang. I wish that our DepEd will recognize this na alternative learning education needs to be accommodated.
All right, thank you. So before po tayo kay Sir Rocky, kay Mark at saka kay Holden, I'll be strict with the 1 minute rule for rebuts. Sir Rocky, so that we can move to the next question. Sir Rocky.
Is it me? Sorry. Okay, very quickly. Ang dami na kasi. Okay, balik very quickly. Yung I want to go back to the fact na parang, of course, there are so many factors that is important to improving yung current situation ng natin, educational system. Pero kasi, importante ang teacher factor, so many things are important. Classroom, accessibility, affordability, and all of those things are very important. Pero kasi ganito kasimple yan. Kung ikaw, merong super high-tech na classroom, at ikaw may super high-tech na teacher, where do you think your child will learn the most? With regards to an international standard. Ang pinag-usapan natin kasi is our ranking. Diba? Our ranking, 9 out of 10, all of those things. If we leave our children to their own devices, do you think they will improve our ranking?
20 seconds.
If you give them access to the best equipment or all of that, or you have access to the best teacher, saan ang ranking natin? Next, yung kay Thea, very valid yan. Napaka-importante nung sinabi niya. But those things are already accessible, albeit super expensive in the Philippines. IS Manila, Brent International School, and British International School, the Philippines, already offer that kind of curriculum. Yung hindi na kasi we, all of us, yung Catholic education natin in the Philippines, we follow a production line sort of educational system na parang you go through elementary, preschool, elementary, high school, and then you choose your and then that's it. Ang ginagamit na namin sa international education is the agricultural model. We throw information and we let them fester and grow in the children, and they choose their particular strengths and interests. Ganun na kami magturo sa international education. Hindi na talaga production line. Pero accessible na yan, albeit super expensive in the Philippines. Pero kasi ako and yung family ko, doon na kami talaga lumaki.
Yes,
so, meron na yan sa Philippines.
Right.
It's so expensive and accessible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Mark.
Yes, sorry, Sir Rocky. Yeah, si Sir Mark, si holding a decision. Tapos cut off na po tayo sa education kasi tulad nga po ng ating title tonight, ang dami-raming problema ng Pilipinas. Go ahead, Sir Mark.
1 minute po.
Thank you. That's okay. Ganito. You go ahead and create a timeline. You cannot go ahead and solve the educational system's infrastructure problem overnight. So you have to go ahead and target low-hanging fruits. Mas lalo na yung high impact. The curriculum, the methodology, which I mentioned earlier, are your low-hanging fruits, immediately solvable, maybe not immediately, pero short term. At most importantly, once you go
30
ahead and
seconds.
once you go ahead and teach people to go ahead and admit that they make mistakes and they learn from it, then maybe you can go ahead and graduate someone who will admit the mistakes of past people of why our educational system are this right now, and maybe someone will graduate with the humility enough to go ahead and solve the infrastructure problem in the long term. Yan lang.
All right. Holden, ikaw na po. 1 minute.
Hello, good evening sa lahat. So I think di lang naman actually infrastructure and teacher yung goals ng school, no? So a school can actually have basics, like for example, the instruction that was mentioned before, outreach, research, practicums or OJTs. So, and you cannot also compare um, science schools, like for example, PSI and DepEd, because
30 seconds.
science high schools are actually run by DOST, and DepEd is running, our most of our schools, no. So as to the question, if our government is doing enough, I think the basics are there. It's more on dapat yung mga the people, what the people can do, and the teachers as well.
Wrap up po.
So thank you.
All right. Sean?
Yeah, so I'll admit that I haven't really read a lot about what the actual plans are. So I'm basing my judgment of this on statements that were made by Vice President Sara Duterte. So I think collectively we agree that equally infrastructure is as good as or as important as the need for new teachers or the quality of our existing teachers. We argue about that, but from the statements that were made, I do think that Sara Duterte does have a plan for infrastructure, but I do not think she has an adequate enough plan for
30.
the quality of our educators and the teachers. In fact, she went as far as to say that we can't hire, I think the number was 30,000 per year, the number of teachers, which has been done in the past. So on that merit, is she doing enough to solve for the problem of our
15.
educational system? Based on that, I think the answer is no.
All
All
right.
right. Sir,
Thank you.
thank you, Sean. Sir Rocky, 30 seconds because we really need to
Yes.
Very
yeah.
quickly na lang. Dahil kasi, I'm just gonna say, I totally agree with what Sean said. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. So, as the title actually says, ang dami-raming problema ng Pilipinas, and we just spent hours talking just one. So our second second problem that we will talk about right now is energy crisis. As consumers, we're experiencing, lalo na nung summertime, yung rotating blackouts, and of course, there is this high cost of electricity. According to several reports na nabasa ko earlier or before pa, we are facing a looming energy crisis for various reasons. Depletion nung sa Malampaya natural gas field, which is basically, I think, 1/3 yun yung nagsusupply for the whole Luzon. And then reliance natin dun sa imported fuel, and then needed amendments sa EPIRA law, so on and so forth. So sobrang daming factors ng energy crisis, but it is one of the biggest problems na kailangan harapin ng this administration, and actually one of the biggest problems we are facing right now. So yeah, since medyo nabanggit naman na what's really the cause of the problem, we're gonna go to the question of, do we think that the government is doing enough to address this issue, and what do we think is the best solution to it? Anyone who wants to speak?
Sir Bong?
Okay.
Address ko lang yung sinasabi, hindi lang Malapaya ang problema. Kasi meron tayong mga natapos na sa Duterte time na mga coal power plant. Alamin yan, Luzon, Visayas, sa Mindanao, hindi napapa-under ngayon dahil napakamahal ng coal, dahil sa giyera nga itong Iran and Iraq. Kasi puro import lahat yan. Tandaan natin yun, huwag tayo magkonsolidate sa Malapaya. Malaki ang tulong ng Malapaya, but then yung 40% lang ng production ng Malampaya ay napupunta sa Luzon. Pero Luzon, Visayas, sa Mindanao, ang daming nagawa sa panahon ni Duterte. Tapos na ngayon, ha? Dapat gumagana na. Hindi napapagana yan. Na dapat sana yan yung magre-reduce sana sa atin ng ano. Kailan kung pina-under yan, mas mahal pa ang singil sa Meralco. Natin, mas mahal pa. Kung ang Meralco ngayon ang singil ay nasa 12, 11, baka pag pina-under itong coal power plant ay maniningil yan ng 15 hanggang 16 o 17 pa. So yung sinasabi na ma-address ba natin ang problema ng kuryente, sa panahon ni Duterte, dahil alam niya na hindi baka magtaas o whatever, na naramdaman niya na nagkagera nga ang Russia, na alam niya puputok ang gera, nagpabid siya ng renewable energy. Ilan ang nanalo? Anak niya, 2,000 megawatts. Ngayon, may pabid na naman ngayon na renewable. Makakahabol ba? Yes, makakahabol kasi meron na nagawa ang NGCP na magsusupply na ngayon ng NGCP galing sa Mindanao, dadalhin na sa Metro Manila. Noong June 30, in-announce yun na until the end of this year, third or fourth quarter, 900 megawatts ang galing sa Mindanao kasi tapos na yung under cable doon na para kuryente, dadalhin na rito sa Luzon. 900 megawatts ang i-susupply ng Mindanao at saka Visayas. Kung kailangan sa Visayas, i-susupply. Kung yun ay matutugunan na yan, sa kulang na yan, hindi pa rin sapat. Kasi kailangan natin ng tawag kanito ng almost 15 to 20,000 megawatts ang dito lang sa Central Luzon. So ang ilan na ang nandito ngayon, nasa 12,000 pa lang tayo.
2 minutes.
So ilan ang short. So malalaman natin yan in siguro 2025, yun naman ang pinangako, matatapos lahat ng renewable energy hanggang onwards 2030. Doon lang parang tayo magkakaroon ng sufficient supply ng kuryente. Yun lang, thank you.
All right. Creepy Speak, ikaw na. 3 minutes.
For the energy crisis, I think ang nakikita ko ng solution talaga power. Best, the cleanest, the most sustainable. And so far, si Marcos, parang wala namang ginagawa para ma-realize yung nuclear power. Kasi from design to construction, abutin tayo ng 5 years. Pero sa ngayon, parang wala pang nangyayari. So, sa tingin ko, kung meron mang ginagawa yung gobyerno, kulang. Kasi I think yun lang talagang solution na nakikita ko. Nuclear power. So, yun.
All right, Creepy Speak.
Yes, all
Sir
right.
Rocky?
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Sir Rocky.
Having lived in an oil-producing country for many years, more than a decade, I know what it feels like to pay electricity for, ng regulate yung cost mo ng consumption because you are an oil producing country. Ang Philippines is not. I agree with sino yung just before me, Creepy Spin, na parang our what we need is an alternative source of power. Ang problem kasi natin is that the previous administration, as mentioned by I think Bong, si Duterte has been investing in yung fuel-based power plants that will supply energy to the country is very short-sighted. No? It's very short-sighted to invest in fuel. Plus, it is contradictory or antipodal to the entire position of the world. Yung global position na parang we become more green, di ba? So, I agree with Creepy Spin. We need to be more aggressive with our alternative source of power. Ang problem kasi sa akin with regards to this proposition is that we really don't know where we're at with regards to yung nuclear power natin. I don't think it is fair to say na nothing is moving. What is fair to say is we don't know anything currently with what is happening with regards to our nuclear power development or alternative sources of power development. What I think is fair to say is hindi natin alam.
1 minute.
And we need to know, and we need to invest more in that, and everyone needs to be invested in that, because tama si Crispin, that is the only way na parang para we can be more competitive, and we can, we can bring down the cost of ano natin, our cost of energy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sir Rocky.
Yes.
Before I think Sean was raising his hand. Yeah, but before that, I just wanted to to mention again the question. We are now on the second problem of the night, which is the energy crisis. Do you think that the government addressing the problem, and what is the best solution? Nagsalita na si Sir Bong about energy crisis, diba? So,
Nauna na siya kanina.
paunahin ko muna si Sean before
Sean.
si Sir Bong. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I appreciate that BBM is looking for, or the administration is looking at alternative sources of energy. Um, and I think there seems to be more clamor towards nuclear energy. But I think we need to redirect more towards renewables. So that's, I guess, not really an answer to the question, no, but we can debate about the issues of national security, safety, and whatnot on nuclear. Um, I think nuclear might be easier at this point. I mean, the amount of energy we can produce from nuclear, I think, is far greater than the amount that we can produce from renewables at the moment. But in the very, very long term, the amount that we can get versus the cost of renewables, I think, is far more cost efficient. So yeah, that's just my take on it.
All right. Thank
Alright.
you, Sean. Yeah. Go ahead, Sir Bong.
Yung sinabi kanina na walang ginagawa, meron ako, pumasa na po yan nung Marso pa lang, yung atomic regulation bill sa committee pa lang, wala pa sa floor. Nagtataka nga ako bakit nahuli yan, mas nauna pa yung batas na sinihain ni Ruben Padilla regarding dun sa panukalan nilang reforma. Halos magpanabay lang yan. Bakit kamo? Alam na natin kung sino mga investor na kongresista at saka senador pagdating sa terms of energy. Ngayon, kanina may pinanukala kahapon pala naglabas ako ng tweet noon. Si Abuitis ngayon ang magiging partner ng government natin through PPP project. So built
20 seconds.
at saka BOT yan, built operate transfer. Ang gagamitin na nuclear energy natin is modular. Kasi mabilis yun 2 years lang yun ang 100 megawatts o 150 megawatts. 2 years lang may tatayo
10.
na. So every cooperative lalagyan ng gano'n. Yun lang. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean, go ahead.
Yes.
1 minute po.
Parang naiiwan
No,
lang.
sorry. Naiiwan lang. My
Parang
bad.
naiiwan niya lang. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. So, Gamer, before we go to our next problem, our next topic, I just wanted to to say that the people behind the Twitter Space Roundtable Discussion is another project, which is the Twitter Space Roundtable. Sorry for the dogs. Town hall meeting. It's different because we invite guests. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry about the dogs. I know we invite guests to come with us and talk about topics, and then we can ask questions. So one of our first is on July 13. We invited the right person to ask about the Marcos administration foreign policy, about our geopolitics situation, etc., etc. So we will release the poster by tomorrow. So yeah, we're very excited for that. So please save the date. It's July 13. All right. For our next question, our next problem. Of course, actually this should have been number one problem na pag-uusapan natin. Again, this space is entitled Ang Dami-Raming Problema ng Pilipinas, and we are talking about the problems of the Philippines. So again, our next problem is poverty. Yeah, poverty. Yes, according to Asian Development Bank, according to Asian Development Bank, the data of the Asian Development Bank in 2021, 18.1% of the population live. 18.1% of the population lived below the national poverty line. And then for every 1,000 babies born, 26 of them died before their 5th birthday. So basically, it's just practically saying that medyo I know, yeah, you know about their poverty. Medyo pangit yung poverty incidence natin here in the Philippines. So yes. Okay. Our question is what do we think is the cause of this? Dun muna tayo. Creepy speak. Tama ba?
Tanong ko lang, yung 18.1% poverty line, ano yung natin, poverty line sa Philippines?
Wait lang. Sorry, I'm gonna get back to you on the poverty line. Pero ito, this is national standards. Itong ginamit nila. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Can you define further poverty?
The poverty line. Yes.
Yun
Sige lang.
lang, para maintindihan ko.
Yeah, babalikan kita. Alright? Anyone who wants to speak about the cause ng poverty line?
Anyone guys? Any two? Any three?
Okay. Ito na, sorry. Based sa PSA, yung below poverty threshold is kung 12,030 pesos per month in a family of 5. Yun yung income. This is from Philippine Statistics Authority. So pag mas mababa ka sa 12,030 in a family of 5, you're below poverty line. That's a threshold. Go ahead, Sir Bong.
Nasabi ko na to kanina, no? Ang poverty natin, bakit ba meron tayo ng employment? Pangalawa, pagkain. Mahal ang pagkain sa atin. Magkano ang sweldo natin? 500, 600 na ngayon. 600. O, palagyan natin 700. Lima sa isang pamilya, 6. Kagastos ng 500 o 400, ilan ang matitira. So, mabilong talaga siya sa poverty line. Ngayon, bakit inaayos ni Bongbong Marcos yung food security? Para bumaba. Kasi kung titingnan mo yung data, halos ang pagkain natin sa ginagastos sa mga nasa poverty line, kung tawagin natin, kung nasa mga laylayan, halos 50 to 60% ang sahod nila napupunta sa pagkain. Paano pa yung kuryente? Paano pa yung tubig? So kaya sila, ang nangyayari, ay doon sila sa squatter nakatira. Kasi hindi na nila kaya mag-loan ng pag-ibig. Although na yung mga construction worker ay ngayon may benepisyo na ng mga pag-ibig, may SSS na, may Medicare na, o lahat-lahat niyan, hindi nila kaya mag-loan. Kasi nga, ang sahod nila sa isang pamilya na nakatira sa informal settler ay lalaki lang nagtatrabaho. Kasi ang babae, para sa mga bata, ay kung 3 anak niyan, 4 na anak niyan, 5 anak niyan, baon pala ng mga anak. Pagkain pala ng mga anak sa baon nila. Ang sahod ni tatay na 700, kung skilled worker siya sa construction, 700 to 800. Ang pagkain niya, 500 na, kasama na yung baon, panggasto sa bahay. Paano pa ang kuryente at tubig? Yun lang. Kaya ngayon, ang ginagawa ni Bongbong Marcos, food security. Pag nagsobrang supply natin, babagsak ang pagkain. Pag bumagsak ang pagkain ng presyo, lahat makikinabang nasa laylayan. Kasi babagsak, mas malaki na maiuwi nilang take-home na pera nang galing dun sa 700 na yun. Kung pagkakasyahin na nila yung 300 pesos hanggang maghapon, buong mula umaga hanggang gabi, kapagkasya. Ngayon, hindi talaga kasya ang 300. Yun lang. Thank you.
Alright. Thank you, Sir Bong. Again.
Pwede magtanong.
Go ahead lang.
May ginawa si BBM na na for food security, program for food security. Kailan po kaya natin maramdaman yan, sir?
Yung ano ba yan, food stamp? Or iba? PPSP?
Hindi, yung sinasabi ni Sir Bong na may administration ni BBM, food security yung priority nila. Kasi based sa observation ko, hindi pa talaga bumaba yung bilihin.
Sagutin ko na ng diretso, isa lang naman ang sinabi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Para maayos yung food security, kailangan natin ng value chain. Ano yun? Mula sa magsasaka hanggang sa tindahan, magsasaka ang nagtitinda. Ibig sabihin mo, nandiyan yung partner, yung kadiwa. Kasi ang magsasaka kasi, kung At saka yung pangalawa din, yung mga subsidiya galing sa gobyerno, abono, foods, voucher na abono, at saka yung mga tawag nito, free na yung irrigation, yung mga mechanization. Pag mababa mo kasi ang cost production na yan, ay talagang babagsak ang presyo. Yun ang pinaka-importante. Ngayon nakikita natin hindi na yung news. Ako naglalabas diyan. Meron na tayong rice processing plant sa Mindoro, meron dito sa Isabela, meron dito sa Mindanao na nagkakalaga ng daan-daang milyon na instead na ngayon ang naghahawak ng rice processing plant ay itong mga nabulakay yung mga kartel na sila may hawak diyan ng bigas. Na dadalhin mo yung bigas diyan, palay diyan. Eh ngayon ang nangyayari, hanggang production lang ang magsasaka. So nabibenta na hawakan ng kartel. No? Hanggat hindi makuha ng buong supply chain na yan, na mabuo yan sa sinasabi ni Bongbong Marcos, hindi bababa ang lahat ng bilihin. Kailan mangyayari ito? Ang sabi nga ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, hindi kakayanin ng 6 na taon, pero pipilitin niya kahit ma-achieve man lang yan 60 to 70%. Nandiyan yung cold storage, mga isda, mga gulay natin, ginagawa na sa Baguio, mayroong bago ngayon, na open 102 million pesos yan para sa mga gulay. Para hindi na, yung instead na yung gulay, i-impact mo diyan para na-supply niya, magiging maganda. Kailangan talaga ang supply chain. Pag hindi na buo yung value chain na yan, ganun pa rin mangyayari. Hindi babagsak ang presyo ng gulay o bigas o karne o baka whatever. At saka
Alright.
isda. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Sir Bong. So we're still at the problem of poverty. So just to get things going, the question is, do you think that the government is doing enough to address this? It's number one. And number two, what do you think is the best solution to the problem? Bilang parang nasagot na ni Sir Bong yung tanong. Miss Gigi, you want to speak? You can raise your
Yes.
hand. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to say an observation because, traveling around the world and looking at different systems. I live in Singapore as well. I think the main problem of why the Philippines is at its poverty rate now is because 1% of our population owns 50% of the economy. And unless we have a solution to decentralize wealth, it's going to be like that. The rich are going to monopolize businesses, and the poor are basically going to be their slaves. And looking at the Nordic example of Europe, after World War II, Germany was very poor, and that's why World War II happened. A lot of countries are poor, and Europe actually implemented a social democracy wherein you have progressive taxation. If I were the leader, I'd really implement progressive taxation, wherein in Europe, the minimum tax is 50%, I think, and the maximum is 70%. Now, of course, that's high if you implement it in Philippine terms now, but the 50% of your tax means you get free education, you get free healthcare, free hospitalization, libre yung panganganak mo pag, for mothers, your kids, for single mothers, your kids have free nursery care, and so basically it's a whole integrated system. And if we implement progressive taxation, meaning yung mga oligarchs natin, nasa 70%, 80% of tax nila. And the tax that they pay, actually, if they raise the salaries of their employees, those salaries can be tax deductible. So it basically evens out. This is a theory and it's a concept. You basically decentralize the wealth of an oligarch to his employees, but the salaries that are increased becomes a tax deductible on his part, right? So for me, progressive taxation is one of the best solutions to decentralize wealth from my observation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Gigi. Hi guys, you're welcome to the Twitter Space Roundtable Discussion. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday, and this is a non-partisan space where people can just talk about the national issues without the fear of name calling or personal attacks. And this is just objective arguments with each other. So, welcome to this space. Anyone else who wants to weigh in on the issue? Our topic is still poverty, and the question is, do we think the government is doing enough to address this? And what else? What do we what we think is the best solution to the problem? If none, let's go to our next problem tonight, which is basically close to my heart and one of the things that I mentioned earlier. Our next topic is public transportation and Metro Manila traffic. In 2022, we ranked fifth in the world's worst transportation problem, according to think tank and University of California, Berkeley. The same year, a survey said that the public transportation in the Philippines worsened at the time. We have, I mean, every day we see long train and terminal lines. And then, based on a report of Philstar.net in 2022, a new research also mentioned that Metro Manila ranked 8th in the worst in the world in terms of hours spent in traffic. Our discussion can revolve around what do we think is the cause of the problem? Again, if the government is doing enough to address the issue, and what do we think is the solution? Anyone who wants to weigh in on the issue? Parang hindi nila masyadong issue yung traffic gamer. Yeah. Anyone? Because okay, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I don't think this is necessarily a comment towards the current administration, but just more a comment about our governance of transportation in general over the past few administrations. I think there has been less of a focus towards mass transportation and a lot of focus on smaller forms of transportation. So, for example, um, we're still endlessly trying to fix the problem of EDSA. We're still endlessly trying to fix the problem of NLEX and SLEX. But what are we doing to solve for that? For SLEX, for example, Skyway. Don't get me wrong, I love the Skyway, but the Skyway is not so much mass transportation. Most of the vehicles on the Skyway are actually privately owned vehicles. But I'm not sure kung iilan lang, no? But definitely there are more private vehicles than there are buses on the Skyway. So that's really not a super long term solution. Um, when we take a look at EDSA, while I do appreciate the carousel system, that's and we still see it now, no? Even with the carousel system, ang haba pa rin ng mga ng pila to ride one of those buses. We need to focus on mass transportation options such as the subway, which I appreciate. Kailan nga ba nag-start yun? I don't know when it started, but it's been moving at a snail's pace. But I think that's one of the key solutions. We need to build more subway systems, more railway systems. I think that would be a more long-term solution to the problem of transportation. We should perhaps focus more on that than building more skyways. I think we should focus more on subways and more trains than thinking about a cable car system. So yeah, I think that's where our focus should be.
All right. I agree with you, Sean. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Sir Bong. And then si Philippines.
Yung solution sa poverty, naano ko na to, napanood ko na to, nabasa ko na to. At saka, sa totoo lang, anin natin yung, although may mga tax nga, nag-iiral ngayon yan. But then, ako agree ako dun kay Gigi, yung bigyan ng tax yung mga oligarch natin. Ewan ko ba, bakit hanggang ngayon yung tax na para dun sa mga luxury cars, hindi pa rin matuloy-tuloy yan. Sa totoo lang, dapat ang mamahal na mga luxury cars nila, mga alahas nila, mga relos nila, hindi pa rin sila matax dyan. Ako agree ako doon, sa totoo lang. Pero itong isa sa makakatulong sa atin talaga, infrastructure. Kasi merong plano ang PESA zone ngayon, ng huling interview galing sa SMNI. Merong 20 eco zone na bubuksan sa Luzon, Visayas and Mindanao. Tapos bibigyan ng tax holiday ng 30 to 40 years. So pag nagkakaroon ng economic zone doon, at saka yung maganda yung, kasi ang mga kagalimbawa, yung processing natin sa mineral, nasa Surigao yan, magkakaroon ng processing plant doon na tunawin yung mineral na ang meron tayo, so magkakaroon ng trabaho. Pag nagkaroon ng trabaho, siyempre may infrastruktura, lalago yung lugar. Kasi tandaan natin, pag itong poverty hindi maiaahon natin to kung walang trabaho lahat ng mga Pilipino. Ilan ba ang datos natin ngayon ng unemployment? Mataas pa rin. So ibig sabihin, kung ito'y masolusyonan, walang ibang solusyon dito. Infrastructure, pag infrastructure, sigurado may trabaho. Pag bubuksan mo yung kalsada, bubuksan mo yung kuryente, tubig dyan, at bubuksan mo yung telecommunication dyan, sigurado may umusbong na tindahan dyan. Pag may umusbong na tindahan, may trabaho dyan, merong merkado dyan, kikita yan. Yun lang sa akin. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Sir Bong. Yeah, I just want to remind everyone, if you want to speak, you can raise your hand, you can request for a mic, okay lang yan. Tapos, if you can't speak, you can actually just comment down below and then we will read it. Yes. Okay, I think it's Crispy and then Liang. Again, we're in the topic of, asan na tayo? We're in the topic of
Number 4?
transportation, yeah. Transportation and Metro Manila traffic.
Yeah, for the mass transportation, ang naging problema, walang maayos na urban planning yung Metro Manila. Kasi compare mo sa Hong Kong, Singapore, tad sila ng mass transport system which happened 20 years ago or 30 years ago pa lang, kasama na sa plano. Sa Metro Manila, walang hindi nangyari yun which is dapat ganun. Pero sa presente, tama rin na dapat lagyan pa rin ng MRT, subway. Unfortunately, irreversible na yung problema na yun Hindi na natin, congested na yung Metro Manila na hindi na natin malagyan ng MRT, subway. Kasi huli na ang lahat. So, wala. Magiging traffic pa rin talaga sa Metro Manila. Yung gagawin siguro, i-decentralize sa Metro Manila. Lilipat tayo sa Clark, sa Bulacan. Kasi, wala na irreversible na talaga. Kumbaga, full capacity ng Metro Manila. So, yun na lang nakikita ko. Kumbaga, suffer na lang tayo. Wala. Let's suffer the consequences. Yun lang.
Yes, thank you. I nag-agree ako kay Crispy. Because I think it's lack of urban planning talaga. Go ahead, Bia. Ay, sorry, Gamer. Sinabi, pinauna ka na. Si Bia. Thank you. Go ahead, Bia.
Thank you. Kanina pala parang feeling ko tumalon yung topic, yung sinasabi ni Gigi kanina. Pasok muna ako doon kasi ayun nga, yung tax the rich, diba? Kasi based dito sa study na nabasa ko sa IMF, mas corrupt ang country, mas mahirap na country because they collect less tax. So kung magta-tax tayo na properly at magkaroon tayo ng mas magandang tax system, at saka magkaroon tayo ng presidente or mga politicians na may will para tigilan yung mga ganitong mga corruption, mas tataas yung economy natin. So, diba, yung sa emerging market, sa gitna niyan, kung makikita nyo dyan sa yung mga countries na kakonti ang corruption, sila rin yung mga countries na mas natataas yung tax na binibigay sa country nila as compared din sa mga countries na nasa third world. Doon din yung mas pataas yung corruption kasi sa tax system pa lang nila, pinapakita na nila what kind of people and the kind of government na meron sila. Kasama na tayo doon. And then dito naman sa roads, kasi meron din ako nabasang study before from UP. Ang pinakamarami talagang nagawang daan is si President Marcos na matanda. Kasi ang program niya is to energize the market by yung sa mga nandito sa provinces, hindi na nila kailangan pumunta sa Manila para doon magkaroon ng businesses and jobs. Doon pa lang sa mga nila, sa mga regions nila, sa provinces nila, mag-create na sila doon ng jobs. And mas madali yon para sa mga farmers or sa mga businessmen kung yung road networks natin mas magaganda at tsaka established na maayos. Kaya sa panahon ni Marcos talaga merong urban planning, natigil lang to sa panahon ni Cory. And so on, nasimulan ulit kay Duterte. Kaya kung
1
makikita
minute.
nyo, yes, maraming mga projects na nasa PPP, Pinoy, inadapt yun ni Duterte kasi maganda talaga. So ang idea talaga is ma-decongest ang Metro Manila by letting the people go home sa provinces at doon na lang mag-create ng jobs na isusupport naman ng infra ng kada region and provinces. That's all. Thank you.
Alright. Thank you po. Go po, Sean.
Yeah, just a comment on what Creep Crispy said. Uh, ayoko mawala ng pag-asa. As somebody who lives in Metro Manila and has no intention of going outside, I think there is still hope. But I think what we need more of from our government in regards to mass transportation is just the resolve to get it done. I will cite one example, right? And while I do have a lot of reservations about the administration of Duterte, one of the things that I really appreciated, for example, was he actually got involved or he paid attention to the issue of SM North versus Trinoma on the issue of where they were going to put the centralized what do they call it the
Central Station.
central station, right, of the MRT LRT. That was going on for several years. He got involved, he got shit done, and that one I really appreciate because finally now ginagawa na siya, and that aids in creating more mass transportation options for the country. So I think we need more resolve. And one of the key issues now of the subway is that ang daming right of way issues. I used to live in a subdivision that that will be impacted by the proposed Bikutan station of the subway. And again, it's just been going on for years and years na involved na rin yung LGU pero ang bagal ng progress. I don't think anyone in that subdivision, my former neighbors, I don't think they've even received the proposals yet from the government of how much they are willing to pay to tama ba yung term? Expropriate their properties. So I think that's one of the reasons why ang sobrang bagal ng progress when it comes to mass transportation options. Maybe we need to cough up more money to get people to freely agree to let go of their properties kasi hindi naman talaga madali yun, right? I mean, you can argue that the government will pay you a fair market amount, but that will not cover the cost of changing your life entirely, moving to a different place, changing your schools perhaps, or changing your place of work because you have to move to a different location. Maybe if we budget like to double up from the market value, that might actually make
30
things move
seconds.
a lot faster. So yeah, we need more resolve in cleaning up or in resolving the right of way issues, and that will give the government more resolve to move forward with at least the subway plans.
Alright. Yeah, thank you, Sean. Anybody else want to talk about our problem with mass transport?
All right. Yeah, I'm super happy. Anyway,
Teka lang, I have a question.
game.
Sorry, wala naman nagtataas ng kamay.
Go
Yung mga program ng governments, oo, di ba? Kasi parang masyadong marami yung percentage ng private cars natin sa daan. Kaya nagkaka-traffic. Tapos yung sa mga kalye natin, marami yung mga obstruction dyan na hindi naaayos. Gaano ba yung willpower ng government natin para mag-clean ng mga ano natin, ng mga daan natin? Ako so far dito, I'm from Dasma. Nandito na rin, halos city na rin to, parang Metro Manila na rin. I think malaking factor din yung mga businesses natin na malalaki like Ayala, nag-build na sila dito ng mga hub. So, andito na rin lahat ng kailangan namin. So, yung infra na simula na. So, people can go here and stay here and feel like you're in Metro Manila. Now, yung dati kasi nagbabiyahe ako lagi, no? Napakarami talaga ng cars papunta ng Metro Manila na private. Naku, itong ginagawa ng gobyerno na, I don't know kung na-push na yun. Yung mga public transport natin. Kasi may nabasa ako before, masasabi mo na malaki na yung country natin, malakas na yung country natin, mayaman na. Kung yung mga mayayaman are willing to travel by public transport like MRT or bus. So, kung mapapaganda natin yung sistema natin diyan sa mga public transport natin, mga tao pwede nang mag-travel yan ng public transport na hindi na matatakot. So, kasama na diyan ang security. So, yung ako tingin ko mababawasan yung mga sasakyan natin. Kung hindi natin ko-consider yung init ha. Ayun lang naman. Thank you.
Alright. Sana meron public transport from Forbes to BGC, no?
Yes.
Ano sila? Yes,
yeah.
Ed.
Si Ed.
Yeah.
Miss Gigi, if you want to speak, raise your hand.
Yes,
Para we can
actually,
call you.
sorry, I raised my hand earlier, but okay lang. You can call me later.
Ikaw po,
yeah.
after po ni Ed. Ikaw po, susunod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
3
Ed.
minutes po, Sir Ed.
Yes, speaking of the public transport, yung mga mass transportation sa roads, sa roads, grabe ang problema namin dito sa i-share ko lang kasi grabe ang problema dito sa Region 5 when it comes to roads saka sa yung mga mass transpo. Kasi dito kasi laging pagpunta dito lagi ng mga tourist. Pagpunta lagi ng tourist sa Bicol region. Laging wasak yung road. As in, hindi siya laging nasisira. Kasi sobrang yung mga ang daming truck dito na parang laging nawawasak yung yung mga road, yung mga roads namin wasak kasi hindi mo talaga as in, siguro mapupuntahan mo dito mga 10 hours ka. 10 hours yung travel time. Dati mga 8 to 7 lang. Yun yung yun yung problema. Tapos ang problema pa dito, yung mga mag-aayos ng yung mga nagko-contractor sa roads. Parang man tawag dito, parang tinitipid nila yung yung materials sa ng roads. Grabe pag nagbi-bidding nga dito parang palakasan. Yung dito kasi halos lahat ng mga mayors dito sa amin, sa mga municipalities namin sa Bicol region. Contractor sila tapos tumatakbo sila sa eleksyon. Tapos yung malaki kasi yung yung bidding, parang malaki yung bidding sa malaki yung nakukuha nilang kickback or the SOPs. Yan yung problema namin to. Gusto ko lang i-share. Kasi grabe ang problema namin sa roads. Pagpupunta dito, sobra-sobra tapos madalas napapadalas dito yung aksidente. Yun lang.
Alright, thank you, Ed. Miss Gigi, ikaw na po.
Yes, thank you.
3 minutes po.
Thank you. I think that the subject is not why there are too many cars in on the road. It's the subject is more why are people concentrating on certain parts of the Philippines when we have 7,641 islands and then everybody is in Manila. And it actually stems from the time of Marcos nung dinevelop nila ang Manila as the center, right? And Imelda was actually the governor at the time, leaving all the provinces and all the other regions left behind. Manila became the greener pasture. Kaya nga dumami yung mga squatters sa Manila. And after that, they didn't want to go back anymore. They preferred to remain squatters and remain in the greener pasture and be in the city, in the big city, kind of like being in New York as opposed to being in Kansas or something. So I think somebody said it a while ago, the zoning, Bongonli, creating economic zones in different regions are the key factors. It's very similar to a parallel that in Singapore, that's what they do. So we have 2 CBDs here. There's Orchard Road and there's the Shenton Way, right? You could compare it to to Makati and BGC. So everybody wants to be there because it's shiny, it's you're a city girl. But because they decentralized it and they developed zones properly, so there are industrial zones, there are zones even for central kitchens, there are zones for transportation workshops. That it's so organized that everybody has a place under the sun. So if your business is, let's say, food, You can't just put your kitchen anywhere in Makati or Marikina or somewhere. No, you have to be at a certain zone in order for you to get a permit to operate as a food production company. So I think these are the kind of on a bigger scale. If the government looks at examples from abroad, even Europe, how cities in Scandinavia, for example, you have to go through wheat fields to get to the next city, and because of that, nobody really wants to go to the cities anymore. Nobody wants to go to Copenhagen or Stockholm. Nobody wants. They're good, and same as Singapore. Nobody wants to go to the CBD. In fact, they hate the CBD. They'd rather stay in their own zone kasi meron namang Zara doon. Meron ding Uniqlo doon sa little heartlands nila. So I think that's the main bit. It's creating different economic zones. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Gigi. Yes, anyone who wants to speak about the topic? If not, you will go on to yes.
Sir Ed, go ahead po. 1 minute po.
Yes, with regards to Miss Gigi, creating economic zone is hindi pa ganun hindi pa, it's unrealistic pa as of this moment. Kasi di naman open ang economy natin. Saka maraming na-offend na foreign investors sa atin because of the 60-40 gridlock. And yun nga, yung 1987 Constitution is too bad for us. Yun lang naman.
May I say something about that?
Just po.
Go ahead, Miss Gigi.
Go
1
ahead.
minute po.
Just
And then
1
Sir
minute.
Paul.
Yeah. Okay. I own a business in Singapore, 100%. So there's nothing wrong with foreigners owning 100% in a country. Malaysia does it, Singapore does it. But the problem with the Philippines is that there are certain biases, right? And there's no limit to certain policies are not in place, right? So for example, in Singapore, if you hire foreign workers in Singapore, the employer has to pay a levy. So ang dami ng Chinese workers sa atin, 4 million na ba, or I don't know if nabawasan. They don't even pay, we don't even know how much taxes they pay. In Singapore, if you hire a Chinese worker here and he's a carpenter, you pay $1,000 to the government in order for you to retain that worker. So it's across the board, whether you are a foreign business owner, a local business owner. So I think policies have to be in place first before those 60-40 is abolished, and good governance, overall good governance. So thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you, Miss Gigi. Wait, Miss Tia, nag-raise ka kanina ng hand? Miss Tia?
Yes, pero sa poverty na topic.
Okay. Sige.
Mamaya na lang.
Yes po. Thank you. Sir Bong, 1 minute po.
Yeah, yung 60-40 tandaan natin sa negative list lang yan. Kaya tingnan natin sa Constitution yan. Sa pasok ka sa eco-zone, 100% nandun, manufacturing, industrial, ang lahat ng mga ginagawa doon, electronics, paggawa ng cellphone, lahat yan 100%. Kasi pag-aari niyan, mga Koreano, Hapon, may British dyan, may German dyan, ang dami natin dyan. Huwag nating galawin yung 60-40 kasi 60-40, lahat lang yan ay nakapaloob. Binago ni Duterte yan, naka-specify yan doon, lahat lang sa mga negative list. Ngayon, yung sinasabi ko na 20 eco-zone na bubuksan sa Visayas and Mindanao, mas more on Mindanao, open doon ng FDI. Kasi kagaya ng manufacturing or paggawaan ng tunawan ng mineral, kagaya ng nickel, kagaya ng mga extraction dyan. So magiging na tayo, may papasok na nga dito sa atin na Chinese na Yoshida ba yun? Yutida ba yun? Yoshida, nakalimutan ko pangalan. Magtatayo in somewhere in Surigao para sa paggawaan ng battery. Nandoon yung inaantay na lang, sana mapirmahan ni Pangulong Bongbong yung 20 eco zones na yan. Mas marami sa Mindanao, parang 15 ata. Sa Visayas, 5. Pag napirmahan yan, doon na magkakaroon ng paggawaan ng baterya, paggawaan ng bakal, sa Sibugay, 1.5 billion US dollar ang invest dyan ng isang steel manufacturing. Okay naman sa kanila, wala namang problema. So, ikuso na lang, pirmado na lang ang kailangan ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Sir Bong. For our closing statements for tonight, basically you can highlight a problem that the Philippines is facing. You can basically say your piece. Like for example, if it's about poverty or not even kunwari, wait lang. Baka hindi natin napag-usapan tonight but you want to highlight, be it local insurgents, healthcare, human rights, youth participation, employment, or anything that is most important to you. So again, you can choose one problem that the Philippines is facing. Then you can tell us what do you think. Why do you think it is important? Is the government doing enough? And furthermore, what do you think is the solution? Before we start opening the floor to our closing statement, this if this is your first time here, this is the Twitter Space Roundtable Discussion. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday. This is a non-partisan space. You can you can come here and then we can just talk about the national issues. We don't tolerate name callings here or personal attacks. It's just simply an objective discussion of everything. Also, my last commercial, sorry, ang dami ko announce. Last two, please follow the host there. It's the PH Roundtable account. Para you already know what's the topic for the next roundtable. And also, the people behind the Twitter Space PH Roundtable discussion would like to, I know, has another project, which is the Twitter Space town hall meeting. It's basically where we invite people from the government or the right people to ask questions about the national issues and one of our first, we don't know if this is our first because we don't know yet the schedule. We have, please save the date for July 13. We've invited a consultant of the DND, no, DND, yeah, Department of National Defense. Sorry, I'm lagging. Yeah, so to come with us and then discuss about the Marcos administration foreign policy or geopolitics situation. So he can talk about that and then he can answer the questions that we have regarding our foreign policy. That's going to be super exciting. Please save the date. It's July 13. All right. Who wants to go first on our closing questions?
Anyone? Any two?
Yes.
Hello,
Go.
Miss Thea.
Go ahead, Mr.
I actually wanted to speak about poverty. Okay, multiple causes. Income inequality, we already know that. Unemployment, underemployment, limited access to quality education, and of course, state education is questionable for me. Um, of course, natural disaster, climate change, we are prone to disasters, and also agricultural poverty or rural poverty is prevalent in the Philippines. And of course, corruption is part of that. And I've thought about this. Well, of course, the solution needs to be holistic. But foremost in my solution would be, and I think that the current administration is pursuing this, although it's not evident because our constitution is tilting towards protectionism. So liberalizing the markets. I actually am a proponent of liberalizing everything. Not everything, but more like limited government intervention. So it takes time when we liberalize the market. So pag sinabing liberalizing the market, it only means we need to reduce restrictions and barriers to economic activities, starting a business. We need to reduce government intervention, ganon. Yung tipong, like Singapore, just like Hong Kong, just like Dubai, it's so easy to start a business. Like you only need one Singapore dollar, I guess, paid up capital, and walang masyadong bureaucracy. Like in a matter of 1 week, you can start running. You can have a limited liability company. Also in the States, they have this. So the reason for this, and although it takes time, I think that it is a long-term solution. Because when we open up the markets, it can attract investments. And when we have investments, it creates job opportunities. Diba? So when there are more job opportunities in the Philippines, there will be increased in income levels and disposable incomes. So yung effect niyan, eventually, it will reduce poverty, basically. Also, it will allow businesses and entrepreneurs to access broader markets. Um, Again, we don't need to go farther than Singapore and Hong Kong. Ito yung neighbors natin. Like they have done this. Like when it comes to market liberalization, I think Singapore is up there. I think they're number one. So it will enable small scale farmers, producers, even micro entrepreneurs to reach their products and sell their products, not just locally but also internationally. Ito pa, it will encourage Filipinos to be entrepreneurs. Many Americans, you don't need to be rich. They're enterprising, and you can be a one-person business. All they need to do is incorporate, get a limited liability company, and they will have the benefits of taxation. So yun, yung barriers to entry for aspiring entrepreneurs, um, they will be reduced. So yung entrepreneurial activities natin locally will thrive and also will result in more employment opportunities. At saka, of course, FDI, foreign direct investments will increase. And I think yung effect, the same din sa sinabi ko earlier. What I like about when we liberalize the market, when we free up the market, is it will increase
30
competition.
seconds po.
Right now, kasi yung protectionism, it encourages monopoly, and a system of oligarchy. So when we increase competition, yung nagbe-benefit nito ay mga consumers because it will increase the quality of services and reduce prices. But since nga it takes time and long term naman ito, we need some safety nets in place for the most vulnerable. So I'm actually for also targeted welfare programs, universal health care, walang gutom program that the president or the administration is implementing, unemployment benefits, pension schemes. Alam mo yun, we may not need them, but there's a sector in our society that need them. We need to have subsidized healthcare, very important, kasi very important to keep a healthy population. Right now, I think the PhilHealth has expanded yung reach nila at yung universal healthcare. Hopefully, more people will be more informed about this. At saka, I need more time, like 1 minute. We need proper agrarian reform and access to credits for farmers. We need free irrigation. For now, ito nakikita ko, modern farming techniques. So basically, yung agri naman natin, we need to really ramp up. And siguro, sorry, I want to mention this. Yung new Agrarian Emancipation Act will be signed tomorrow, I think. Nakita ko lang kanina sa news. And this is a promise made by the Marcos administration during his first State of the Nation address, where he asked Congress to pass the law that condones the amortization of principal payments, interest, and penalties on the land that the farmers are presently tilling. Kasi ang daming mga hindi nakabayad ng mga amortization nila. So it is, for me, a significant piece of agrarian legislation. Plus, I heard from the farmers that it is easier now to get credit from land bank and so on. At saka, of course, free yung mga punla sa Department of Agrarian DA offices. So, natutugunan naman to. It's not just an immediate solution. Of course, infra projects need to continue kasi we need access in both urban and rural areas to improve yung mga farm to market na transportation ng mga products. Very important. Yun, nakikita ko na yung benefits nun because I live in the province. Ano pa ba? So for now, they're doing that. And of course, we need to combat corruption. That one is very tricky because corruption really starts at the bottom. Alam mo yan, minsan hindi siya na ano ng COA, na to track ng COA because it happens at the bottom, yung mga projects. So, yun lang, medyo holistic yung approach, but I really am a proponent of market liberalization. Thank you.
Oh, gusto ko yung mga sinabi ni Ms. Thea. Parang hindi gusto na sabihin mamaya. Sino po? Just, ikaw ba?
Anyone else who wants to go first?
Closing po?
Yeah. Closing.
Anyone po?
Miss Gigi and Chris PP biyang Sir Bong.
Yeah. Chris P? Anyone?
Yeah, go ahead, Sir Bong.
Yung sinabi ni Ms. Thea, yung free market trade agreement or liberalization, meron na tayo RCEP. Ngayon si Pascual nasa EU. Nagipag siya ngayon, ang sabi ni Pascual kahapon nata na isang araw, babalik dito sa Agosto, bababa ang mga EU, baka pag-uusapan na yung FTA, free trade agreement. Yan lang kasi wala sa atin eh. Tingnan natin, ang Vietnam, meron free trade agreement sa US, tayo wala. May free trade agreement sa India, tayo wala. Meron free trade agreement ang Vietnam sa tawag kanyo sa EU, tayo wala. Yun talagang wala sa atin. Sa ngayon, tinatrabaho naman ng administrasyon natin, hoping na maging successful yung ginawa ni Pascual doon. Kasi itong RCEP kasi natin, magbibinipisyo ang magsasaka nito. Tapos ngayon, meron ng mga seminars sa mga kooperatiba para ang tawag nito, magagamit na yung mga nalalaman nila para i-import o i-export o depende sa mga kalakal natin. Naumpisahan naman yan, which is yung durian at saka yung mangga sa Australia at saka yung kakao, nagsaging successful. Ngayon naman, itong Japan, pumunta rito sa atin at makikipagkontratahan na sa Mindanao regarding dun sa coffee, 100 ton per month ang kukunin nilang kape. So nagiging maganda na ngayon. So ako agree ako doon sa ma-liberalize yung market natin kasi kung yan ay hindi maging ma-liberalize, dito lang tayo sa RCEP, kulang yan. 2.1 billion ang population sa RCEP, it is 15 countries. So lahat ng kakompetensya natin ng Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, so ang dami nilang mga agricultural product, tayo huli tayo sa agricultural product. So mas maganda, ma-enhance pa o magdagdagan pa yung FTA natin. Kasi hanggat wala yan, member na tayo ng WTO pero kulang pa rin. So hoping itong administrasyon nito bago man lang siya matapos ang niya ay maayos yung mga free trade agreement na yan na sana yung nakuha ng Thailand ay makuha din natin. Tama, magkakaroon talaga tayo ng jobs dyan. Lalaki talaga. Yung entrepreneur, meron ng bago ngayong programa ng Department of Agriculture which is yung tinatawag na agricultural mindset. So yun ang bagong nila ngayon sa Department of Agriculture. Napakaganda na. Lahat ng mga tao tinuturuan para maging isang financial literacy. Kasi yan ang hindi tinuro ng lahat ng administrasyon sa lahat ng magsasaka. Yun lang. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Bong. Anyone po? Closing po.
May I say something?
Go po.
Miss
3 minutes.
Yeah. So well, I'll be short. I just wanted to thank you for hosting this. I think it's very inspiring and very good sharing, and it eliminates boundaries that we see in the social media. I see some familiar names here, so thank you for that. I just wanted to say that liberalization. There's nothing wrong with it, except that our country is in a very perilous state. There are factors that we need to put in place. One of the good policies in Singapore is if you put up a business here, there's a quota system. Before you can hire a foreigner, you have to hire a certain number of locals first. And I think that is what's precarious when we open our markets to 100% foreign ownership. If we don't put any quotas in place, any tariffs or levies in place, then people could abuse the system. And I think this is when good governance, labor policies are in place. So hopefully we get to a place wherein it's still pro-Filipino. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Miss Gigi, for coming. Please consider going back and being with us. We do this every Tuesdays and Thursdays. And to everybody, please follow the account of the PH Roundtable. Yeah. I
Thanks.
would like to congratulate my co-host for tonight, Gamer. You did a really great job. I just wanted to, just wanted to say my, yeah, I'm gonna, just wanted to say my piece though. I think that healthcare is still a problem here in the Philippines, and do I think that the government is doing something about it? Yes, I'm super happy with the direction of Secretary Herbosa from his perspective and forecast when it comes to the UHC implementation, prioritization of the TB program. Although we don't share the same solution to the healthcare worker shortage, but yeah, I think since I'm coming from the public health side and he's also coming from the public health side, so medyo nag-jive talaga kami when it comes to what ano yung kailangan i-prioritize when it comes to healthcare, and it's definitely public health. So I don't want I will not gonna waste a lot of time explaining about it because I've tweeted long tweets about that. So yeah. Gamer, you want to say something? You're closing for tonight. Congratulations again for co-hosting really well.
Thank you very much for allowing me to co-host with you tonight again for the second time. Ah, actually, na point naman nila lahat ng kailangang i-point when it comes to education, energy, and all of that. I guess it's just a matter of implementing those policies, and then we need to wait if meron ba talaga nangyayari o wala. And I guess we're all aware of what's really happening to our country, and we always want to see it improve yung mga issues na natin na ganyan. Like, ako personally, I've been dealing with students every day, and then I can see how bad the education is. Like, seryoso. Like, yung kanina nabanggit ko, like, I have a friend kasi who's actually hiring teachers for primary ata, yung kindergarten, parang ganun, for SG. Tapos, parang nasasad ako. Masaya ako kasi they're able to get better opportunity going to Singapore. But I feel sad na hindi natin nai-reap yung benefits having good teachers na pupunta sa iba. And then ganito yung makikita natin sa ano natin sa mga kids na naiwan dito, like they're not doing well, bad sa bad sa they're having a hard time reading ganyan. Then actually kahapon having a conversation with college students, and then ma-share ko lang, one of the questions ata dun sa exam nila was like, name 5 global cities. Tapos yung answer ata ng isa doon was like, Japan, Tokyo. I was like, napailing na lang ako. Sabi ko, oh my God. Hindi naman, napaka-basic yung question na to. Tapos hirap pa silang sagutin. So, alam mo yung mga ganun mga bagay. Very trivial, but meron silang, nahihirapan sila, and think we need to really address that. And sa energy naman, I think we just need to embrace new technology. Huwag tayong matakot sa nuclear, since we've already improved the technology for a very long time. And then a mix of renewables. I guess we just need to, sa akin kasi napapansin ko, dito kasi sa Ilocos, sa Meralco, I think it's just 12 pesos, right? Per kilowatt hour. Dito sa Ilocos kasi it's 17 pesos. Like, oh my God, parang kung hindi na lang talaga mainit, hindi na ako mag-AC, pero kailangan sobrang mahal ng kuryente dito. Knowing that, may question pa sa akin before, like, di ba dyan sa inyo yung malapit yung windmills, ganyan, yung mga solar farms, like, yeah, but unfortunately, hindi talaga bumababa yung kuryente, yung binabayaran namin ng kuryente kasi talagang mahal kapag summer talaga. So, regardless, it's still expensive. And since I'm a business owner din naman, then I can feel the impact of increased power rates every time. So, ang hirap talaga. i-balance. So, yeah, and transportation, Metro Manila, hindi na siya nag-improve kahit papaano. I think nag-improve naman nung nag-open yung Skyway. But as I've mentioned, hindi siya, yung impact niya is hindi for everyone. It's just a few people that has cars and able to afford to pay the toll. So either we need to implement stricter car ownership, stricter road safety, yung roadworthiness ng mga cars. Kasi we have a lot of cars on the roads na hindi na dapat andyan. That would help a lot. Then again, kahit ipagbawal naman natin yung wala namang magandang mass transpo, mahihirapan pa rin talaga yung mga masa. So, ayun. We're waiting for a solution for everything. We need to be patient, but then again, kailangan natin pukpukin yung gobyerno to provide us a solution for those problems. Ayun. Salamat, guys.
All right, thank you, Gamer. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Special thanks to Reform PH for the AI art and for the backup team. Thank you to Zoya for the teaser video. Thank you to Gamer for co-hosting tonight. And thank you to Chai for the sagip kanina because I wasn't actually feeling well. I'd like to thank everybody for coming in and